Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Sabres Edge podcast presented by Nickel City Mafia. It's me, Sammy Spooky Mitts, and I'm here with the terrifying Timmy Clerks.
All right.
Timmy, how's your Halloween going? I need to take this off. Hold on.
I mean,
That's
you didn't
really
tell us that we were wearing costumes. I completely forgot mine. I guess I kind of just look like I guess I can get away with a hockey player. I got the flow going on. I got the jacket going on. But yeah, I mean, it's a big day. It's Halloween. It's Dia de los Muertos, and I guess we can kind of go into like Halloween a little bit. What is your favorite candy, Sam?
I don't know. I waver a lot, but I think probably this year I'm gonna go with Kit Kat. It's always a strong choice, I think.
All
Yourself?
Right. I mean, a wise man once told me, never trust anybody that says their favorite candy isn't chocolate. So, and that wise person is Jake Podger. Anyways, my favorite candy bar.
Thanks, Jake, for that.
is going to be, it's a recent one. It's a Reese's Take 5. So I bought one during at the store today. Don't have any trick-or-treaters coming today, so I guess I'll just snack on this candy by myself. So, looking forward to it. You know, got that pretzel in there and peanut butter. So good combo.
If someone comes by your place, you're gonna have to give up your one piece of candy. It's gonna be so sad.
I mean, I guess I don't need the calories, but you know, it's personality season, so you know, not worrying about work. It's all about showing off your personality, not about the weight gain right now. So,
and speaking of the personality, like, what costumes have you gone with in the last few years? And like, what do you think's your favorite one that you've ever gone in?
I mean, this is a big one, Sam. I mean, I am known by a nickname within my family. And I don't think I've divulged this. I haven't divulged this costume to anyone outside of my family. They know what I'm talking about. My nickname growing up was Spider Sausage. Can you can you guess what that costume might be?
Oh, I have no idea. Is it like a Wiener Dog Spider-Man mashup?
I mean, it's only one of those things, and it's Spider-Man. So, growing up, my favorite Marvel, I guess superhero growing up was Spider-Man. So I think I got my first Spider-Man Halloween costume back when I was probably around 4 or 5 years old. And I'm just going to say that was my only Spider-Man costume. And what I mean by that is I wore that thing out, boy. Let me tell you. I was wearing it every single day to the point where the stitching was screaming. And it was the first time ever that maybe a costume started getting stretch marks on it. So hence I became Spider Sausage. So
well, congratulations with that. You got great value out of that costume.
Exactly. I mean, I think I only wore it for one Halloween, but yeah, I mean, it got a lot of value out of it. I just wore that throughout Christmas and every single holiday. But besides that, you know, I'm not much of a costume guy anymore, so I haven't really dressed up in a while. I think the last thing I was a lumberjack, and I just literally threw on like a flannel jeans.
Yeah, I think you're currently wearing that one.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit more of I need a longer beard, but
yeah, you need to grow it out a little bit. But
what about you, Sam?
Well, this year I went as a hockey player. That's why I got the gloves on the mantle there, and I got the stick back there. I don't know if you can see that.
Nice.
But
what type of twig do you got there?
Oh, I got it's a CCM.
Okay.
My headphones can reach. I can get over here.
Nice.
It's, I don't know. It's like Crosby Flex or something. Got the rib core.
Nice, man.
Yeah. It's the Crosby one.
Cool. Oh, I got the grip on there too. Awesome, man.
Yep.
I mean, I grew up playing with wooden sticks, and then eventually got my first carbon fiber stick, and I snapped it in the first game, so my parents never bought me. I had to fund my own after that.
Yeah. This one's lasted me quite a while. I've had it since like I want to say junior year of high school. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And then what jersey were you wearing out?
I was wearing a Skinner one.
Okay.
I'm not trying to wear my Sujimoto one because it's literally the most expensive thing I own.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
Or at least the most expensive piece of clothing. I'm not trying to go out to a college party and get this thing just like trashed. So
no, you don't want any stains on that thing. It's one
I had an older Skinner one. It was nice,
Awesome.
but yeah, I think all time though, my favorite one is our family used to do, like we just had a bucket of just random Halloween costume parts, and so we would just like pick and choose random bits, and we had one that we would go as kind of consistently called Darth Clown. I think you can
Okay.
kind of figure out the piece of that. You got Darth Vader mask, some clown. I think it was like a onesie maybe, like a, I don't know. It was goofy,
I
but
mean, every family has one of those costumes, so I know what you mean. I was Spider
yeah,
Sausage, you're Darth Clown.
exactly. So, question about your stick. Did you smash it over the boards? How'd you break that stick?
So I actually checked my friend from behind, and then I ended up spearing myself with my own stick, and
Oh,
it snapped in half. So I was in pain, and
you
I
know
started
what? If
started
you're spearing
crying.
yourself, it's probably better that it snapped because if that doesn't snap, that hurts even more.
I mean, it was double the pain. I snapped that stick, and I started crying over the stick over my own pain. So
I'm sorry to hear that. It's
it's a
quite
tragedy.
traumatic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
PTSD is still from that snapping that stick.
So that's our Halloweens, but there were Sabres games this week.
There were.
So let's get into those. The first one of the week was against the Devils, and that was an eventful game. To start us off, we'll just give us the goal scorers. We got goals from Dylan Cousins, Rasmus Dahlin, JJ Paterka, and Tage Thompson, with additional assists from Cousins, Dahlin, Greenway, Yoki Haru, Kyle Okposo, Owen Power, Matthias Samuelson, and Jeff Skinner, and Alex Tuck. So a lot of people getting on the boards there. Unfortunately, that was a 5-4 loss to the Devils. How'd you feel about that game?
Yeah, I think when we talked about it on our last podcast, we knew it was going to have to be a boat race because both teams can
Yeah.
score. And I mean, I think we were kind of a little bit more confident about our goaltending. And I think we'll talk about it too. I don't think a lot of the goals were to blame on goaltending. Plus, we had an injury happening
Right.
too. But honestly, I can't take away too many negatives from that game at all. Obviously, you want the win, and wins usually mean overall positive. But, one thing that I took from that is you're facing New Jersey. New Jersey's known as a high goal scoring game. It's a team, and it's a team that's going to be going deep into the playoffs soon. So for the way that the Sabres battled in that game, I think it ended. It ended up only being 5-4 at the end of the game.
Yeah,
So
it was 5-4.
only being, but like not too much of a wide margin at the end of it. So I was kind of happy that I know before that we are kind of worried about the reemergence of goal scoring when it's going to start coming back, and I think this game kind of showed that we're going to start scoring goals. What'd you think, Sam?
Yeah, I made a comment in our Discord server about this, which by the way, I think there's a Discord link below somewhere on the channel. But I made a comment about that game as we were watching it, and it was just this. This is bad for my heart, but this is such fun hockey. And I think that's kind of I think that was after the JJ goal, which tied it at 4, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think it was. I think I just still agree with that sentiment. I think as a hockey fan, that was an awesome game. As a Buffalo Sabres fan, it's heartbreaking to lose it by the 1 goal, and it's partly because you have to make that goalie switch partway through, and you're hoping Comrie's okay. I don't really blame Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen for having a rough game. He's coming in as relief midway through the second period.
Yeah.
So that's just tough. And then to not get any points out of that game kind of stings. You'd love to see us get some points, but yeah.
I mean, like you mentioned, UPL was coming off a strong game against Ottawa. I mean, towards the end of the game, there was a little bit of like a heart attack going on,
Right.
But I think the common theme right now with even with UPL and the Sabres goaltending, it's a lot of it's going on the team's defense right now. I think the one goal that I would attribute to the goaltenders would have been the first goal with Comrie. He just let up a weak rebound and kind of bounced out real quick, and then they scored a goal off the rebound from there. But besides that, the other things I noted in the game real quick was a lot of this, like Jack Hughes' first goal, he used a lot of the Sabres defenders to kind of hide himself, or even I guess the player that really stood out for blocking UPL sightline would have been Samuelson for both those goals. One, he had a bad turnover for the second goal of the game, Samuelson, but he also was standing in front of the net and just not shoving away the New Jersey players. He's kind of just standing there, and you could see that both on the Holla goal and the Hughes goal, they kind of took that to their advantage and kind of lined it up so they couldn't see, or UPL couldn't see the puck, and that allowed them to get easy goals. So, I kind of lay, at least Samuelson on that game kind of had a game where you're just kind of a little bit of a letdown, but, he's a solid player. But besides that, I reviewed the game today, and really, those goals, I really, it's hard to press UPL on those goals that he let up, just because, like you said, he's coming in halfway through a game, and a lot of it came on the defense. It's hard to see over a guy like Samuelson. I think he's 6'4" too, so blocking up.
I think one of them, as they showed the replay on the goal, I like it looked like the UPL was really screened, and then when they show the replay, it was actually kind of a pretty clear sight line, and I think I probably put that one on UPL. But again, it's just like you came in relief. It's all it's already kind of destined to be a high scoring game. There's 4 goals halfway through. It's tough. That's a tough situation to be put in. So I'm not critical of UPL in that one, but he probably should have that. If he were in the whole game, I'd look at that one as one where I'm like, that's tough. You want that one back. But again,
exactly,
it is what it is. They were also playing most of the game with 5 defensemen. As a result of Connor Clifton takes a bit of a precarious hit to Nico Heischer's head along the boards towards the end of the first period. I'm not sure I would really look at that as a dirty hit. The Nico Heischer's coming down the wall. Clifton moves towards Heischer. Maybe Clifton shouldn't be making that check at all. Just as we've talked about, Clifton has a tendency to go out of his way to make checks that are probably putting him out of position. So maybe it's questionable the move in the first place. But Heischer kind of backs up a little bit at the last moment and stops his momentum in a way that just puts him right in the way of Clifton's, I think it was elbow, maybe shoulder, and just kind of takes it to the side of the head, and it's really bad. It was not a good hit. But again, it didn't feel like it was malicious. It felt more like kind of a nasty accident, and Clifton is out for the rest of that game, gets a game misconduct, and then ends up suspended for 2 games. So that's the last game plus the next one against Philly. But that one just kind of is what it is. It's a tough accident. Put us down a defenseman for the remainder of the game. That's another reason I'm like, UPL, that sucks for you. It was a tough game. You let in 3 in half a game, but I'm not upset with you.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cards stacked against him. And then, with that Clifton hit, it's kind of been interesting with a lot of the hits the past 2 games. So we got another one to talk about in the Avalanche game. Yeah. But no, overall, though, it was nice to see, like you mentioned, the goals coming through. You had Peterka scoring another goal. He's kind of heating up right now. And it was nice to see Granato switching up the lines, too. That's one thing that I've noticed the past 2 games is he's kind of switched them up again. He's brought Peterka up onto the middle stat line with Skinner, and then also dropping down Cousins down to the 4th line, bringing Yost up to the 3rd, switching things up, keeping things fresh. So it's nice to see that we have a coach that's kind of adjusting right now. And like you said, I think the big thing with Peterka too, since he's out without Jack Quinn this year, get him on a line that's also skilled as well. So it's nice to see his confidence building up, and maybe we can see his performances reflect what he did in the Worlds this past summer.
Yep. One other player I'd like to talk about during that game, because I don't normally talk about him in a positive light, is Yoki Haru.
Yep.
I think that often Yoki Haru kind of finds himself in an invisible zone where you don't really recognize what Yoki Haru is doing until something bad happens, and then you're like, oh, Yoki Haru missing an assignment in front of net. Yoki Haru just often it has to do with him not playing the body effectively, whether it be in front of the net, in the corners, not stripping pucks well. But something that I really noticed during this last game, and it's strange for me to even notice Yoki Haru's on the ice, is that his gap control is really good. It's this weird again, it's a weird thing to notice, but he has a really good knack for, as players are entering into the zone, he kind of does a good job of keeping them like at the right distance to kind of goad them into thinking that they got a shot off. And oftentimes it's an unremarkable play, and that's why you don't see like it's not like, oh, Yoki Haru like strips the puck and turns it up the ice, but he maybe like 4 times in a row on like zone entries by the other team kind of backed off just enough to make them think that they could shoot it, and then like just when they were about to release the shot, got his stick in the lane and it just pops up over the net, and it's like the play is dead. And again, it's not one of those plays where you're like, oh, look at what Yoki Haru did, like strip the puck right from the guy, turn it up the ice. But those are effective plays that, like, when they get made, they slow down momentum from the other team, give your chance to gives your team a chance to regroup, so that you're not just playing like odd man rushes all the time. And like, he was incredibly effective at that. So just giving him a shout out, because I don't know when the next time I will be able to is.
Exactly. No, I think we talked about it last game or last show too. Is like he's having a pretty good season, and I think the big thing with defensemen is if you're not a guy like Dahlin or Power, it's best not to be heard from. And when you're not hearing from Yoki Haru, you're not hearing from Samuelson. Shoot, you're barely even hearing from. Well, you're kind of hearing from Eric Johnson because he's just playing outstanding too as a third liner. But
I mean, everyone's like looking at him more too because he's new to the system. Like there's expectations for Clifton and Johnson, and so people are kind of putting them under a lens. But yeah, I think if he were on like our team the year before, he'd be one of those players that, again, you just don't really think about it when he's on the ice because he's just doing things like competently and consistently.
Which is refreshing. So I'm glad. I know a lot of this past offseason was, are they going to get rid of Yoki Haru? I'm kind of glad that they stuck around.
Yeah. By the way, I think he's got like 5 points now in 9 games. So
it's a silent assassin, man. He's a silent assassin.
Yeah. Maybe his offensive instincts are there too.
For sure. I mean, yeah, I don't know if there's much more to take away from that game. I know it was, like you said, we knew it was going to be a boat race. We knew we were going to have to score goals. And really, I mean, there's not really too much else to go over. You know, it was just a bad circumstance for UPL and high scoring. So, yeah, I don't know. You ready to go over to like the Avs game?
Yep. Before we do, though, happy Halloween, Jake. Thanks for the shout out.
Hey, Jake, what's your favorite candy?
True. Yeah, what's your favorite candy, Jake? But anyway, while he's answering, let's move on to the Avs game. So that was a 4-0 victory, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's first shutout of his career. The goal scorers for that game were Rasmus Dahlin, Casey Middlestat, JJ Peterka again, and Tyson Yost in his Colorado revenge game. And then the assists, we have 2 for Jeff Skinner, 1 for Henry Yoki Haru, who we had just talked about, racking up 5 points. Owen Power got 1, Tage Thompson got 1, and Alex Tuck got 1.
I mean, it's kind of funny because you would think there would be excuses for the Avs. Oh, yeah, they're coming over from the West Coast. They're a different time zone. Oh, they've been on their East Coast trip. None of that happened. The last game that they played was, I believe it was Wednesday before they started playing the Sabres. So they're well rested. I mean, yeah, they're making the East Coast trip, but I mean, there's only a 2-hour difference. So they're playing at 11 a.m. their time. So they're playing I believe that they played their starting goaltender, right? I don't know too much about that.
Yeah,
but
let me look. It was Georgiev. Yeah, Georgiev's been their starter.
So appreciate that, Jake. He's a Reese's Take 5 fan too. Why am I not surprised?
Oh my gosh, yeah, look at that. Now you can buy yourself a Reese's Take 5. Thank you so much for the donut, by the way, Jake. It's greatly appreciated.
But yeah. So the Sabres played a full strength Avs team who's considered one of the best in the league. And also, you know, a lot of people are picking to win the Stanley Cup this year, and they kind of took it to them. I mean, they're playing the full offensive press. I mean, I think they got 29 shots off on the net to the Avs 26, but still, you know, you're seeing another guy, like we mentioned, JJ Peterka. He's kind of on a hot streak right now. He's scoring goals like crazy, especially now that he's playing on a line with Middlestat, who is also having a great season so far, and Jeff Skinner. So that line could be pretty deadly coming up in the future. Middlestat, again, you know, he has a goal as well. And his goal was really, you can tell that he is playing confident right now. He was he's looking off to show that he's going to pass. And at the last second, he turns his head and shoots it at the net and snipes it right in the goal. So he's playing so confident. Even Rob Ray mentioned during the broadcast too, he's just playing strong-willed and hard against the boards too. It's hard to get him off the puck. He's setting up his teammates. I mean, this guy's – I know it's a contract year for this guy, and guess what? We got to start that contract soon. I mean, his value is only getting higher right now, and he probably knows that. But, maybe we convince him, hey, let's get the contract done now so you don't have to worry for the rest of the season type of thing. So,
right. Yeah. I think we talked about it before the season where, like, Casey Middlestat was one of the guys to watch. You want to see him get signed before the season, and I would have liked to have seen him get signed before the season, and like we go into the season, we expected that, but now we're here, and it's like, oh, his price is probably going up a bit, and that's well, I'm still willing to pay him. Like, even if it goes up, it would have been nicer if we could have got him before. But yeah, I think that also the point that you made about him just during the game and the like looking off the goaltender is like a really good asset for him to add to his game, because before he was not really known as a shooter, and he still isn't, but if you can take your reputation and be like, I'm looking past all the way the whole time I'm running down the wing, and then last moment you just rip the shot, like, he could find a way to become a pretty effective goal scorer through that, which would be very helpful to add to his game and to our team in general.
Yeah, of course. And like I think, is Bob your dad?
Yeah, Bob's my dad.
Yeah, so 7 for 7. Yeah, I mean, if we could sign him up for that, that's perfect. Another hometown discount. I don't think he's going to be getting more than Tage Thompson, but, I think the league, or at least for the league right now, that's kind of where he would be averaging right around for 7 for 7. So, let's get that done get that done soon, so you don't have to pay anymore. So, yeah, but besides that, like I mentioned, just seeing those line changes too for the team as well. You can see that, Tuck's game's getting better too. And I believe, who was he playing on with this past game? Was it Tage and...
I believe he was playing with Jost and Dylan Cousins.
Was it Dylan Cousins? Okay.
Yeah, Tage is playing with Benson and Greenway. They really mixed up the lines, so it's kind of hard to remember. But I think it was Tage with Benson and Jordan Greenway, which, by the way, this is probably interesting to see how Don is doing this, because going into this game, I was not a super big fan of the idea. Obviously, it worked pretty well with 4 goals for and 0 against. But we went Tage, Benson, Greenway as one line, Middlestat with Skinner and Middlestat, Skinner, and Peterka. And then it was Dylan Cousins with Tyson Yost and Alex Tuck. And then we had the bottom line that stayed pretty consistent of Peyton Krebs, Zemgus Gjörgensson, and Kyle Okposo. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I think this season so far, that's the most interesting lineup. I mean, I think putting Tage with, I don't know, it's interesting. I guess we'll go into Benson a little bit more. We just found out, I think this morning, that he's been playing with an injury and he's been put on the, what was it, the IR or whatever in hockey? Yeah.
We're going to see Byro tomorrow, so that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, so, he's one of those guys I thought played pretty well in the preseason. But they even knew it's funny because I don't know if you listened to the interview this morning on WGR with Granato. There's kind of some tidbits that, that it's planned that it almost seems like Benson's going to stay for the full season. Just the way that he was talking about him, and like we mentioned, how he's off the puck, how he sets up his acuity for like setting up his teammates, and defensive acuity too. Granato mentioned that in the interview today. So, and it was almost seemed like the words that he was using was he's going to be here for the long term type of thing. So it's going to be interesting to see that. I mean, there's some I've kind of been questioning if he's going to be staying up, just because, not knowing that he was injured, but knowing that he's injured now kind of changes things up. But it almost felt like he became like an afterthought the past couple of games. Like he wasn't really there. He almost had that goal in the Avs game, but he wasn't really as effective as he was for the first couple of games. Yeah. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of slowed down. Again, I thought that like after the Lightning game, or like during and then after the Lightning game, like that's kind of where he took a dip. Obviously, he missed a few games between now and the Lightning game, and he's going to miss some after. But yeah, I think that yeah, it's not as he's not just at the level that he was when he started the season, and whether that just be the injury, if he comes back, if he like we hear from Granado that he's 100% and then he comes back and he's looking great, I'll be like, all right, this is the player we should expect. He might have just been like at the start of the season coming off the high of actually making the team and overperforming a little bit.
Yeah.
And like we should be looking more towards next year as like that's the year that we'll really see him kind of come into his own on a NHL roster. But yeah, like I like what I've seen from him so far. But if his play is more the Lightning game, I don't think he's helping you win games necessarily. I do
Yeah.
think that he was absolutely robbed in the game against the Avalanche, and like man, it would have been so nice to see him get his first goal there. You could see it on his face too, like the I can't believe that I like couldn't get it into the net there. But yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, I think with the injury too, it's going to allow the Sabres some more time to evaluate. And I think the other part too is Savoy is going to be back up from the Amerks because he's only allowed 2 weeks down there. So I think he's just finished his first week, and then next week will be the end of his 2 week stint. So it's almost a perfect timing because he's been playing pretty well down in Rochester. So to give him a chance up in the NHL for a little bit and see, what he's about. I mean, if he performs too, it's going to be an interesting situation
right,
overall for the Sabres, which is like a good thing to have, but also it's like a bad thing to have because you have two players that you can't send down to Rochester unless you give them you kill their first year of their deal. So yeah,
right, yeah.
um,
I think in this instance, it's a little like the play might just be to rotate Savoy and Benson in and out of the lineup, like
yeah,
against each other for the remainder of the year. I could see that happening, honestly,
mm,
where they're kind of like taking each other's spot. But if they're both playing well and we look at them in a situation where like they're young, probably don't want to play them every single game, like as they're still developing, they're still finding their footing, that you can risk injury. We've already seen that once with Benson. You don't want to you don't want anything worse to happen. Matt Savoy has like had shoulder issues like before last year, and then heading into camp with the injury during what was it, the Prospects Challenge. Like you just don't want to see like something bad to happen, and I think giving them extra rest days, allowing them to be in like peak physical shape each and every game that they play in, isn't necessarily a bad thing. So if you're just rotating them in and out for each other every other game, like I think you could maybe make a go of it, assuming that they both, consistently perform at a level that's NHL competent.
yeah. I mean, I like that idea. I haven't thought about that, so I like that idea. And at least when they're not playing, they can sit up in the owner's box and kind of watch the game and
Yeah,
absorb everything there. And plus, it gets them on an NHL training regimen. I think that's the biggest thing for both these guys. They just need to have something that's more going to be tailored to the NHL game. Because I don't know I think both of them. I think Benson had over 140 or 150 points last year in the WHL, and like Savoy was around there too. He was over 100 at least, and he played at a shortened season. I mean, how much more can you get out of the WHL if you're going to be scoring that many points and being that dominant? Obviously, you want to go back and maybe win the championship at that time, but
yeah,
I don't know. You kind of have to find like what's the cost, what's the benefits of them going back, and what's the benefits of them staying at the Sabres. And I think having them in at least in the system for a year here, it's going to be a lot more beneficial to them just because they can focus on hockey, they can focus on weight training, and they'll have them under their training situation. Because like you mentioned, Savoy kind of has like a shoulder injury thing going on for the past 2 seasons. So maybe the Sabres have something different that they could work on it there that maybe they don't have down. I don't even know what they're in, a whole different city in Washington right now. So that's where their WHL teams is. So no, I agree with that. I kind of like that idea, just to kind of like rotate them in and out for sure.
All right, so we were talking about, before we got into the prospects, which is very important, but we were on the Avalanche game.
Yeah.
So I think we talked about. Actually, I'm not. I think we just got over the goal scorers. Like we mentioned that UPL had a shutout. How do you think he looked in that game? Because he only saved 23 shots. So like the defense played very well in front of him to allow only 23 shots. And I didn't think that too many of them were super dangerous. There was one he made a great save coming across the crease, like got his hand up and stuck it there for like 2 seconds because the guy was trying to wait him out. And
Yeah.
like got the top of the glove on it. It kind of bounced over, and Rasmus Dahlin was there to like slap it away. But how do you feel that UPL played aside from just like he got the shutout?
Yeah, I mean, I think he played a pretty solid game. I think he's playing more of like a safer type of game where he's not going to be giving up too much. If he's giving up a rebound, he's getting it covered up real quick too. I mean, at the end of the day, I think right now, and we talked about UPL for a while about this, is for him, he needs the confidence, and it's a confidence booster. When we were watching the Ottawa game, we saw them up. It was 5-1.
It was 5-1, yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning of the third period, I was like, this is huge for him. I mean, this kid who's had he came up to the Sabres last year and played pretty well. Then all of a sudden it fell apart at the end after an injury in the middle of the season, and he didn't even play for the last, I think, like 10 games at the end of last year. So, and even at the end of the locker room cleanouts, you could tell like that really affected him, like his confidence. Yeah. So I was excited for him at that point for the Ottawa game to be like, all right, this is the game that he needs. This is going to build his confidence so he can keep on playing tough. And then he kind of let up 4 goals. So I was kind of interested, what's going to happen? Or he let up 3 goals. I'm like, what's going to happen when he comes in then for this game? And just to see him kind of bounce back from that and play a solid game, and just having the team around him too for once is huge. I mean, he had some pretty good saves, like you mentioned, but nothing too like outstanding. The team stepped up at this point, played really pretty solid defense for what they're known for. So, and it was against, I mean, overall, he did that against, like I said, this is considered like a Stanley Cup contender team at the end of the season. So, I mean, this is huge for him. So I'm excited for him at least. Was it a great game by him? No. Was it a solid game by him? Yes. And that's kind of that's the type of game that you want to expect out of like a UPL type right now, is just don't lose the game for the team. I don't know if that's kind of your feelings too.
Yeah, obviously, like you don't want to see the goalies lose the game. I thought he played exceptionally. I thought one of the things that like stood out to me, and like you mentioned it already, was the rebound control. He was doing a great job, I thought, like covering up rebounds that got a little away from him. Like there was a goal that we were talking about, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, where Comrie kind of had the skate like pushed under his glove, and like you got to be stronger on those. I know that's not really Comrie's fault, but I thought that anything that kind of was in UPL's immediate, like in front of him, he was on top of very quickly and did a good job making sure that like there was no question about whether it was getting out. I thought like that was really good on his part. But also for those that were maybe a little bit further away from him, you touched on it with the defense. Like they did a really good job clearing that in front of him. So it's nice to see the defense step up, which, in UPL games, it's often we see a lot of goals for and against.
Yeah.
But
what'd you think of Bryson's game? Did you notice him much out there?
I thought he had a little pop. I think that the players that end up getting sat this year have all come in with a lot of energy, and we saw that with Olofsson earlier. We like Jost got a goal in the last game, and I thought Bryson came out and looked as good as I've ever seen Bryson look. I don't know. Maybe Don Granato saw something when he sent Stillman down in favor of Bryson. I'm always just kind of the belief that Don Granato knows more than me, even though I've kind of been preaching for Stillman to be, or should have been, the guy who stayed up. But I thought Bryson looked really good. the fun thing about small sample sizes is now that we can say that every game that Bryson has played in has been a shutout for the Sabres. So,
I
but
mean,
yeah.
I guess we're both happy to kind of eat our crow right now. I mean, I've said it about Greenway. A lot of fans have said it about UPL and now Bryson. It's still only one game, and I don't think he's ever going to be the type of defender that you have out there on a nightly basis. But for someone like him also to come in and just like you said, he had a pop, but he wasn't too noticeable, and that's kind of what you want on defense, especially on your third line D. And it's just like, just be solid, man.
Yeah.
Don't do anything dumb.
My question to you is, do you think he was better than Clifton has been?
Oh. I mean, I've been kind of down on Clifton, to be totally honest with you. So the small sample size, I would say yes. But I think Bryson needs to play a couple more games for me to be a definitive thing. And I think the one thing that, and you mentioned earlier, is with Clifton is the one thing that's a detriment to his game is his best asset, and it's his hitting. And a lot of his hits that he does takes him out of plays and gets him out of position, which tends to end up letting goals up when he's on the ice too. So maybe he kind of tones it down a little bit and maybe picks and choose when he hits guys.
Right.
I don't know. What is he? He's like 24, 25, I think, right now. Or is he? Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get that out of your game when you've been this established in the NHL.
He's 28.
28. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be tough to kind of take that out of your game after that. I guess that might be a good question for the chat. Who would they rather have? Would they rather have Bryson or would they rather have Clifton on the ice right now? Interested to see what SoCal Sabres fan says.
I'm by no means a Bryson fan. Let me just get that out there.
Yeah.
I last year had just been like cursing every time that Bryson had stepped on the ice because I did not think he's been good. This year, in a very small sample size, I think it's very important to stress that it's a small sample size. Like he's looked good. He's looked fine to good, right? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't anything spectacular, but he looked like a competent defenseman. I said this earlier in the year that I think that plus minus is a good stat only when comparing it to other people of your same team because you can look at, like how other like player or like when other players are on for goals or goals against, and it's like balanced by the effect of like you're on the same team, so it's the same goals and same goals against that are kind of being scored or scored on. Connor Clifton is a -6 right now in one less game than like he could have played because there's been 9 games. He's only played in 8. The next closest person to him is a -3, and that's Tage Thompson. So that -6 is really concerning that you're like doubled the next closest minus to you. And also like love to see Tage Thompson pick that up, but it is what it is. I don't worry about him. I think he'll get into a groove. He has been lately.
Yeah.
But that number for Connor Clifton should alarm people. He's on for so many more goals against than he is on for.
And he's not on the ice that much either.
Yeah, he's not spending that much time on the ice as a third pair guy.
Yeah, you can compare it to Tage Thompson, but Tage Thompson's on there for every special team.
Special team doesn't count for plus minus.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
But I mean,
well, actually, for shorthanded goals, right?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Either way, I mean, Tage Thompson is pretty much probably doubling his ice time. Yeah. At least. I mean, that's a tough look. Who's the next guy after Tage? Do you still have that up?
Yeah, the next guy after Tage is Connor Clifton's defense partner, Eric Johnson, at a -2, and Rasmus Dahlin at a -2.
Okay. So, I mean, Dahlin's out there all the time.
Yeah, Dahlin is out there for literally the whole game, so
I think he's close to like almost 30 minutes a game. So
yeah,
of course he's going to have goals scored against him, and
that'll happen.
Yeah, and then
his average time on ice is 24 minutes and 15 seconds. Okay. So that's almost like half the game.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then, I mean, I think with Eric Johnson, to be only a -2 with being your defensive pairman being Clifton. I think that's a pretty good takeaway, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
If you're Eric Johnson, you're playing a little bit more time on average than Connor Clifton, and you are like playing mostly with Connor Clifton, and yet at 5-on-5, you've managed to find yourself on the ice for 4 less goals against or whatever. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with Connor Clifton, but he just loses his assignment too frequently. Again, probably going out of his way too aggressively to make checks. And I know there's the whole argument of like, yeah, but if you sacrifice some of those minutes to have Connor Clifton on the ice, you become harder to play against.
I mean,
Yeah, but do we have to sacrifice, like, I don't know. I think Radko Gudas is probably a bad example because he's currently in Anaheim. But, like, I don't know what Radko Gudas did last year, but he was that, like, gritty, hard-to-play against guy, and he wasn't sacrificing, like, their own net to do it, right? He wasn't just constantly out of position to finish these hits. He, like, mixed it into his game in a way that was, like, fierce and aggressive, but also still tactical. And it, to me, like, the thing with Connor Clifton is he's just out there just trying to bust spleens, and it is not, like, it doesn't feel like there's really, like, rhyme or reason to it. It's just something he's doing.
Yeah. And I think we both kind of mentioned this too, is just kind of take a playbook out of Dahlin. He knows how to use his body correctly. When he goes for the big hits, he goes for the big hits, but at like opportune times. But most of the time when he's using his body, he's just getting guys off the puck so then he can get the puck or his teammate can pick up the puck. So, I mean, it's great to have big hits, but this isn't the 1990s or early 2000s anymore. This is a faster game, and once you check somebody and you're out of position, you're pretty much screwing it for the rest of your team. So I think it's best, it's great. Thanks for hitting Clifton. We needed that physicality, but also try being in position more.
Right.
I mean, try playing defense because you're signed as a defenseman. You're not signed as a hitter. We didn't sign you to be Ryan Reeves on this team, who's currently a -5 at 8 games right now, and he doesn't have any points. So
yeah, again, I know we talked about that before the season. Why would you sign Ryan Reeves for 2 years?
I don't know.
It doesn't make sense to me.
I have no idea. I guess for veteran leadership, but they already have a veteran team, so.
While I'm here looking at the plus minus, I just figured I'd point this out. And again, grain of salt with plus minus. Please don't look too far into this. Again, it's in my opinion only good when comparing to people of your own team. But Owen Power and Henry Yokiharu are +6 and +4 respectively. So they're doing well. Owen Power is like the second most ice time on the team on average, I think. So
yeah.
No complaints there from me. He's quietly he's one of those guys, like, it doesn't feel like he's absolutely popping off the page every night, but he's quietly assembling a pretty good year. He's got the points to back that up too. I think he's at 5. Yeah, he's at 5. Henry Yokiharu's at 5 points. Like, as a pair, they're just like sneakily been really good this year.
And that's what we wanted. I mean, we didn't, going into this season, we weren't kind of expecting that to happen. We weren't expecting Yokiharu and Power to be together. We thought that was going to be absolutely terrible for that pair. They didn't match up together at all.
Yeah, we were trying to split them up at the beginning of the year, but they started playing, and I thought it was a little bit rough at the beginning.
Yeah,
with those first 2 or 3 games or whatever, but they figured it out clearly. So.
Yeah. And like you said, they're quietly having a good season. I know I've gone in on Power a lot for not being super physical, and maybe like he kind of gets sloppy in some parts of the game. But I mean, he's a young guy. I think he's only 20 years old, or not 21 years old. He's still has time to grow. Same with Yokiharu. He's a young guy. I know a lot of people have been on top of him. So I think it's almost been like a common thing for the Buffalo Sabres in general. It's just like Tage Thompson, everyone was ready to get rid of. A lot of people are questioning Dylan Cousins and a lot of people. So, I mean, you just got to be patient with these guys, I guess. I was writing off UPL before the season, but I didn't want to fully write him off because I knew like he still had that ability to grow, but it's also like, all right, we got playoffs coming up. We got to start making it. Do we have time to wait for this guy? But I'm kind of like the way that Kevin Adams and Don Granado have been sticking with these guys. So,
Yeah.
You just got to be patient with them. I mean, they're young. It's still a young team. I think it's the youngest team in the NHL right now.
Yep.
I mean,
I
it's
think we
gonna
got younger between the years.
with Anderson gone.
With Anderson retiring, I think like our average age went down, which is
that's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this is a team that's it's gonna we're hoping for playoffs. I don't think we're expecting playoffs, but we should be hoping for playoffs. But there's a lot to grow on. There's a lot of players to grow on this team still. Middlestat too was another guy that was written off as well. So there's so many guys that were written off, and now they're kind of blossoming. So I think the story right now, and I'm telling myself too, is just let these guys grow a little bit more. Be patient.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like, if Don went out of his way to try and get Clifton for us, he's got to be good. There's got to be something there.
Yeah, there has to be.
Because it's worked for everyone else. Everyone that Don has like said he believes in. Look at that. Like,
He just
Alex
has to
Tuck hits a new level.
Yeah.
Tage Thompson hit a new level last year. Like all these players are just getting better, and it's fun to watch.
He just has to get that scumbag Boston Bruin style out of his system. You don't play for those scumbag.
He's got to remove the Bruin in him.
Yeah, scumbag Bruins.
Yeah. By the way, congratulations, Brian. I hope that the game is awesome for you, and I hope that your son has a great time and continues to be a fan of this team because, as you say, they are a fun team to watch.
Yeah, excited for your son too. I mean, Sabres game. Those are my. If you had to ask me to go to a Bills game or a Sabres game, I prefer to go over Sabres games over a Bills game 100 times out of 100.
I mean, same, and that's why we're on a Sabres podcast,
Yeah, exactly. As I'm wearing a Bills hat right now, but still.
Traitor. Anyway, a couple other like tangents from that game was Dahlin extended his point streak with an empty net goal at the end, so he's at a point in 8 consecutive games, and his previous best was a point in 6 consecutive games. So while he didn't start the season scoring, like breaking the NHL record for a defenseman for consecutive games scored at the start of a season, he's been having a pretty good start to the season. He's averaging a point per game. He didn't have a point in the first game, but he made up for it by getting 2 points in one of the games on this streak. And yeah, like he's really not slowed down from last year, and I think he's been better defensively. Yep. Obviously, that's probably a little bit up for debate because like defensive metrics are a little, or at least like for, like there's no counting stat. It's not like how much goals did you score because that's how good you are as an offense person or as an offenseman, right? But for defensemen, like I think he's looked better defensively. He's looked sharper. He's just kind of been like aggressive in corners. He's again, I think we mentioned it after the Ottawa game where he was just a cheat code for digging pucks out of the corner. Yeah. And it was just automatic for him where he was launching it up the ice as soon as he had gotten it out of the corner, and it was just tape to tape. But yeah, so he continues that streak. And then the other thing, the bit of controversy from that game was a Kyle Okposo hit. I don't even shove on Cale Makar. It was a little bit awkward. They were both like running into the corner on a penalty kill for us, which by the way, we went 6 for 6 on the penalty kill as our kill continues to be.
That's another thing.
I think the best in the league, maybe the best, if not the best, close to.
I think it's second to. Last time I heard was second to Calgary. So Calgary has the best. Yeah. So I think we're second right now. Which that's fine. Hey.
Yeah, you know what? Second best is still very good. Yeah. So second best penalty kill in the league continues to roll, but on that kill, Cale Makar is going back to retrieve a puck behind his net, and Kyle Okposo decides he's gonna press towards Cale. And I don't know if Cale just wasn't expecting it. I don't know if he thought that Kyle would back off because, who aggressively goes behind the net on the penalty kill when you know you're going to be second to the puck? It feels like a good way to get yourself out of position as the puck goes up ice. But Kyle Okposo kind of gets his hands lightly onto Cale Makar's back, at which point Cale's legs, or his right leg, kind of immediately buckles, and he slides into the wall awkwardly. And yeah, it wasn't necessarily a pretty sight. You could see that Cale was immediately in pain, had to be helped off the ice, and went immediately to the locker room. He came back eventually in the game to, I think he was, I don't know if he played, but he took like a like a test lap around to see, like during a break, to see if like his leg was feeling all right. Again, I don't know if he continued to play, but he was not at practice, and I think he's expected to miss his next game, but is kind of maybe. So it doesn't seem like the injury was too bad. But at the time, people were calling for Kyle Okposo's head because they thought it was a very dirty hit. How did you feel about the hit itself?
I didn't think it was that dirty, to be totally honest with you. I mean, first of all, I don't blame Avalanche fans. I don't blame NHL fans. You have Kel McCarr, who's considered the best defenseman in the league. He takes a hit. He gets injured. Anyone's going to react that way just because he's one of the best players. Now, if it was a nobody, maybe it was Connor Clifton or Jacob Bryson or Yoki Haru, everyone would just be like, oh, whatever. Like, who cares?
Yeah, right. Routine play, it happens.
Exactly. So I think that kind of blown it out of the proportion. I think Rob Ray actually said it best during the broadcast. The Sabres were coming out hot at that point in the game, and Avalanche were still playing slow. And you kind of see with Cal McCarr was he kind of just let up as he was getting closer to the puck and he was getting towards the net. And Okposo's like, well, what the heck? I'm going to charge after this puck and try to steal it from him and just kind of hold it up in their end so we can save some time on the penalty kill. And as he was going in, it looked like Cal McCarr finally noticed that Okposo was right behind him. And then he was going to make – originally, I think he was just going to go right behind the net and then just carry the puck out. It kind of looked like he was going to go switch it back up and then go into the corner with the puck. And as he was doing that switch up, that's kind of where he got caught. Okposo kind of just gave like that regular, like almost – it wasn't a hit. It wasn't really a shove. It was kind of like, okay, I have my weight on you right now.
Right, yeah, putting a little like lean on them.
Exactly. And then that kind of just, that force between everything that was going on at once kind of just threw him into the boards and then ended up getting him injured. So, and like a lot of people were saying, Okposo was in that player. He doesn't take dirty hits. I know you can even see after the hit when, I don't know who the player was, but he wanted to fight Okposo.
It was our captain McKinnon, I think.
Yeah, it was it was him or
McKinnon ended up getting the
game misconduct, or the misconduct, not the game misconduct. But but then his teammate kind of like shoved him away, being like, "Yo, dude, like this is not the type of player that usually does this type of thing." So
yeah,
and you can even tell, like even afterwards, no one else really. It wasn't like a bench clean brawl or like a line brawl. It was just kind of like. Everyone just kind of skidded off afterwards, which, that's kind of what you expect out of Poso. He has that reputation in the league. And, I don't blame McKinnon either. You're the captain. You got to stick up for your teammate at this point. So, and like you said, like I mentioned, it was like one of the best players in the league too. So to see that happen to him kind of stinks. But, that's the game of hockey. Those things happen. What'd you think of the hit?
Yeah, again, I mostly just the same stuff. Like it didn't feel like it was really a dirty hit. It kind of just felt like, again, it felt like one of those things where Cale didn't really expect the pressure, and he was far enough away from the boards where that trip there made it like exponentially more dangerous. Like he's not against the board when Kyle like contacts him, so he has this kind of like run time to hit it, like to trip into it, and that's dangerous, especially if you go head first. So it's like this scary, dangerous situation, but I don't think it's really Kyle's fault. Again, he initiated the contact. And it wasn't really like a check or a shove or like a cross check. It was just kind of putting a little bit of pressure on. And I guess I just think that McCarr wasn't ready for it at the moment. And like what we saw ensued. And it's just kind of beyond Kyle's control at that point. But yeah, I thought, again, obviously scary situation. I'm glad, like, for the most part, it seems like it's not a long-term thing. He seems to be, like he tested his leg during the game, and he's day-to-day rather than, like, week-to-week or month-to-month. So glad to see, for the most part, he's okay. Hate to see a player get injured like that, but it seems like it's fine now.
And it's a testament to him, too. Even after the game, he mentioned he didn't blame Okposo for that at all. He kind of was like, hey, like, that's kind of not me, too. So he neither took fully the blame. And that's kind of the player that he is too. I mean, game recognizes game. I remember last year there was a tripping call on him and he kind of went to the ref, said, hey, you didn't trip me at all. Like there's no penalty there. So, it's kind of nice to see that in sports because usually you see a lot of flopping and all these fake stuff and you kind of get sick of it. So it's nice to see guys, kind of own up to things in the NHL. That's the hockey way.
Yep. All right. So we went over the 2 games. Who do you think are your 3 stars for this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep this pretty short. My third star of the week, I'm going to have to give it to him is UPL. I mean, shutout. And he came in admirably for the Devils game too. So, like I mentioned, I don't believe a lot of those goals are on him. This isn't the type. I guess the biggest hater for UPL has to be Joe DiBiase on WGR. He absolutely hates him. So it's kind of nice to see him kind of like tell him to shove it with that shutout there and get the first shutout of his career and the first shutout for the Sabres this season too. So it's nice to see that. I think my second star of the week has to be JJ Peterka. He's kind of going on a roll right now. He's scored 2 goals this past game, and he's Granato's trying to help find him a line that he can produce a lot more too. Like I mentioned, with not Jack Quinn not playing this season, he doesn't have that other guy who's a skill maker too, or a skill playmaker with him as well. So it's nice to see him playing up on lines and seeing they can perform with them too. And then my first star, I'm going to have to do it for the second time this year. It's going to have to be Casey Middlestat. I mean, I just like his game. I know it's really like a thrown out there, but I don't think it's much for stats wise. It's just the way that he's been playing, the way that he's performing overall, and the way that he can kind of just play with anybody. I was kind of thinking, do I kind of toss it to Rasmus Dahlin at this point? And I was like, let's just throw Middlestat in there, just give him a first star, just because I guess I'm a closeted Middlestat fan. So we'll do it at that. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, so that reaction of mine wasn't because I thought it was a surprise that like someone would throw him in there. It's because that was my first pick as well, and also like obviously you saw me put in who I thought was the recommendation for the cover picture for this week. Yeah. UPL and Peterka are my stars as well, so we have a matching list for the first time this year, and it's because I didn't think you were going to probably put Casey Middlestat in at the top, but here we are. So yeah, my picks are the same as yours. So UPL, JJ Peterka, and Casey Middlestat for just the consistency of play that he's had. I also like the point that you made about Joe DiBiase having to eat crow about UPL. Yeah. I think that it's important to realize, like, all of us who love and watch this team shouldn't be upset to have to eat crow about any of these players. Like, again, I'm the biggest Bryson denier. I have no faith in him when he's out on the ice. I'm always worried. If Jacob Bryson shows up this year and he proves that he's a legitimate bona fide third-line defenseman, I will so gladly eat that after all of the garbage I've talked about Jacob Bryson. So, like, when people are, like, talking trash about UPL or whatever, I think it's just important to note, like, we're all glad that UPL got a shutout. And if he can be a consistent, like, good goalie, again, for this team, the way that they scored last year, and honestly kind of the way the groove that they're getting into, because they're scoring more as of recently, we don't need good goaltending, we just need average. If UPL can prove that he's average or good consistently, I'm not going to be upset about it, even though I've talked trash about him. I'm only going to be happy. I'm only going to be happy about the fact that he's winning us games.
Yeah, I mean, we're all on the same team right now. So if people are going to prove us wrong, I'm totally fine with people eating. I'm totally fine with eating crow too. So Greenway, keep it going. UPL, keep it going. Bryson, keep it going. Anybody?
We were mean to Greenway before the season started.
I was really mean.
There is video evidence of that.
And like I said, I'm willing to eat crow on anybody, even like when I was on the Buffalo Bills podcast too. So whoever proves me wrong, I'm happy you're proving me wrong.
Yeah, right.
Because
Keep doing it, because the more, like, if Yoki Haru becomes a great second line defenseman, perfect, awesome.
A lot of people are eating crow.
Yeah, fills in that void which we have like a need for.
Exactly.
So I can only be happy with our players making me eat it.
Exactly. So yeah, awesome. I mean, that's what makes us 2 great podcast hosts. That's where we work together. We have the same 3 stars, and we're fine with eating crow too. So I mean, I'm gonna be not a very hungry guy coming this spring when I have to eat all this crow.
Oh yeah, it'll be very filling.
Exactly.
So That's our 3 stars for the week. That's the Buffalo Sabres covered. You want to take a look down the road at what's going on in Rochester, just briefly?
Yeah, let's kind of go over the points right now because we have some guys performing. I mean, I don't watch Amber's games, so I kind of just take a look at the points going on. I believe right now the leading point getter is going to be Kulik. So through 5 games, he has 5 goals, 3 assists.
You're
So
missing some games.
really?
He's
Okay,
played
give
7
me.
games, 6 goals, 3 assists for 9 points.
All right, is he the leading point getter still?
He is tied with Isak Rosien
Yeah.
at and he's got 4 goals and 5 assists for 9 points, which, by the way, shout out to them because they are absolutely trying to make this NHL roster.
Yeah.
And at this point, over a point per game, and they're like, it seems like they've been at least okay defensively. Their plus minuses are pretty good on a team that has some minuses, especially for players that maybe you wouldn't like to see, like Alexander Kisikov is -3. But yeah, these guys are kind of near the top of that. And they've just been really good, really consistent. Kulik got a hat trick for one of his games, so I think it was against the Marlies, which is always fun, even though it's not the actual Maple Leafs. Love to see the farm roster building that just hatred for the Maple Leafs teams. Yep.
No, exactly. And I think we almost expected this out of Kulik again, just because of last year's season. But I think the standout right now is Isak Rosen. I mean, this guy got drafted, and a lot of people thought he was undersized. A lot of people questioned the pick too. And I think last year during I think it was first year in AHL, like he wasn't really anything to talk about. Like he wasn't really finding his game until it got into the playoffs. And then he started having, I think he was almost at a point per game pace in the playoffs at that season at the end of the year. So he was kind of coming into this game at this point. So a lot of people are wondering, all right, what's going to happen this season? And just to see him at the rate that he is right now, I mean, I've seen like the short highlights on Reddit of him playing and his goals. I mean, he's playing like a first round pick. I didn't think he was going to end up to be. I'll be totally honest with you. I thought he was going to be a bust. I mean, just because of his size, he wasn't really noteworthy either. But now his game's picking up. I think he's kind of has that competition with Kulik too. So those two together are working up well.
I think they're on the same line. So like that probably helps their point production if they're both going so well. But
exactly. And then I think Kisikov too. Even though he has a minus, he's still having a pretty solid season. I think he has a decent amount of goals, right?
Yeah. He's got 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points in 5 games. So he's at a point per game.
Yeah,
which actually makes the minus kind of more concerning that he's played less games than everyone else and still is -3. So honestly, during the camps, because I actually went to some of the like prospects games.
Yeah.
And during preseason, one thing that kind of stood out to me is like he has a pretty good knack for getting into scoring areas. He is probably the closest player, in my opinion, to Victor Olofsson in the regards that like when he doesn't have the puck, he just is invisible. He's not necessarily as good a shooter as Olofsson, but he's probably like he's a good passer. He finds good seams for his teammates, but when he is not in the offensive zone or with the puck, where is he on the ice? I don't know. Is he helping defensively? No. That's something that he'd have to work on in Rochester if he ever wants a chance at the main roster.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that opportunity is honestly going to be available for him here in Buffalo because we've got players like Yuri Kulik, Isak Rosien. We saw him, he's been jumped by the likes of Zach Benson.
Yeah.
We see Matt Savoy down in Rochester, which, by the way, he's at a point per game right now, coming off an injury and not playing. So that's pretty good. You love to see that. But, yeah, it doesn't... I don't know that I necessarily have the most faith in Kisikov. If he were to make it, though, you're going to need to see him pick up the pace defensively. You're going to need to see him figure out how he can be an effective defender. The same conversation that we have with Victor Olofsson, I think we need to have with him. Otherwise, I think that we might not see a spot for him in the NHL.
Yeah, and I think, was it towards the end of... I think he signed halfway through the year last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he signed halfway in, and I don't even think they really even played him in any games. Like, they kind of had him watching strength training, because I think that was the biggest thing that they wanted to do, was build up his strength. And I think now this year, I could see him taking a longer development time down in the AHL, just because I think the Sabres know they don't want another Olofsson, even though they still
Right,
have
yeah.
Olofsson right now. But but even Olofsson, I think the last game he played, and he played on the fourth line, and you mentioned too, like, he played solid defensively for the first time, I think, in his career. I think a birdie's finally telling him, like, something clicked in his head, like, maybe I should start playing defense if I want to continue playing the NHL. So hopefully Kisakov notices that too.
Yeah, but I think for like a player like Olofsson or Kisakov, you've got Yuri Kulik in the farm right now, and that should scare you. Like, if you can't play defense, we've got a better option coming up, and we're hoping that Yuri Kulik can figure out he's not the most defensive player either right now, but he has the benefit of the doubt, being a 20-year-old.
I think he's a 20-year-old. Yeah,
20-year-old. Yeah, Matt Savoy's age. So,
I mean, a lot of our it's a common thing.
He's 19 still, isn't he?
Oh,
because Owen Power's 20, which would make Matt Savoy, Yuri Kulik, 19. And Noah Ostlund 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as a 19-year-old, you're not expected to be the best defenseman or best defensively. And he's scoring at almost a goal per game in the AHL right now with 6 goals in 7 games. Yeah, he's going to be good. And if he can sort out his defensive issues, he's going to be an absolute monster. And that's why, like, we don't need necessarily a Olofsson type to fill in for goals for us in the future, because we've got that covered in our farm system. And it's just a matter of, like, when he comes up.
Exactly. And I think Kulik is the next guy up. Obviously, the Benson Savoy situation is always different, just because of the way their contracts work. It's kind of funny too. I mean, Ostlund's actually having a pretty solid season in the SHL too, so he's playing pretty well as well. So you have all these guys who are kind of like dominant offensively, and now they just need to learn a defensive game. Right. I think Rosen was almost the same thing too last season. I mean, he came from the SHL, didn't have a defensive game, brought him over. I think Kevin Adams actually
Kevin forced him over here.
Exactly. He told the SHL team that you didn't even develop him. You did a terrible job. You're coming over.
They weren't playing him when he was in the SHL.
I think he played 12 games. That's
it was really a rescue job to get Isaac Rosian over here, and I think he played the year before this last one and was like not very good, and that's I think why everyone got this idea of like, Isaac Rosian's probably a bust. Yeah. And then this last year, I think it confirmed it during the first half, where it's like, yeah, for a first round pick, this is not what you want to see. And then after, I don't know if it's like what their version of the All-Star break, I think they get a break in that time, like the Christmas break. I think after that break, they Isaac Rosen really figured it out, and then in playoffs, he was just the best player on the team.
Yeah,
I watched those games too for the playoffs, and he was the most noticeable guy. You had Yuri Kulik down there, Brandon Biro, Lucas Rusick, Brett Murray, and those are all guys that are maybe flirting with the idea of being NHL players. You see, Rusick and Murray had played in the NHL before, and Yuri Kulik is one of the guys who we maybe thought were going to make the team out of camp this year. Yeah. And it was so clearly Isaac Rosian who was the best player on the ice when we played.
And that's awesome to see that. Like I said, just patience with these guys. They're going to turn it over sometime. And I guess we just have to trust, Kevin Adams at this point.
A friendly reminder that Adams has a plan.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, and it's good to see that. I mean, you see the best franchises, I guess we could always point to the Tampa Bay Lightning. They always have a strong farm system. So as long as
they traded away their farm though for Tanner Jeannot, which is the most questionable move of all time.
Yeah, and where's he now? He's not even.
He's still with them.
He's still.
But they traded like a whole draft class for him. If you look up that trade, it's like a first, a second, a third, maybe not a fourth, a fifth, sixth, and seventh. It's actually ridiculous.
That's crazy. I mean, Hey,
They know that they're at the end of their rope though. Like they know that they're aging out, and honestly, I don't disagree with the idea of like, hey, what can we do to extend the window? We're not there yet. We are building the farm currently, and it is
yeah.
going very well.
I mean, if you want one team that's grasping at straws right now, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they're grasping for dear life right now.
Oh yeah, they are bringing in Carlson, and it has not necessarily paid off to start the season for them. So
I mean,
that's kind of tough.
exactly.
Anyway, some other standouts for me, just looking at the point sheet for the Americans, is Nikita Novikov. He first year defenseman for them. He was the one who was playing full time in the KHL last year as an 18-year-old, which was impressive because 18-year-olds don't do that.
Nope.
At least 18-year-old defensemen. The forwards can sometimes swing it, but he was known. He was kind of a steady defenseman over in Russia. He wasn't much of a point producer. Comes over here and like you expect the steadiness. He's got 5 points in 6 games. So if there's an offensive upside to this guy, along with what we expect from him defensively, and only at 19 years old, this guy could be really good for us in the future. One guy who maybe fell off a little bit was Ryan Johnson. The last time we talked about him, he had 3 points, and I don't know if it was 3 or 2 games. He has not recorded a point since in the next 4. They're at 7 games now.
Okay.
So that's kind of tough. I think that I haven't heard anything about him playing poorly defensively, so I'm going to continue to assume that like he's actually got a bit of a defensive game going, and so that's encouraging. But yeah, again, for a guy like him, you'd like to see him put up the points because he kind of is a little bit of a puck-moving, good skating defenseman, and they're more known for their points. But if he can figure out a niche in denying entries and taking away lanes, like what we're seeing with Yoki Haru, then yeah, maybe there's a future for him. But
Novikov's a bigger guy too, right?
Yeah,
he's around 6'6", I think.
Big guy.
Yeah, so like, I mean, another tall guy to add to the defense too, and then with Ryan Johnson, I'm sure everybody goes through like their roller coaster ride throughout the season, so I'm sure he'll pick it back up. I'm not too worried about that guy. He graduated as a senior from was it Minnesota, right? So
yeah, I think it was Minnesota.
So he'll pick it back up. I'm not too worried about him at this point.
Nikita Novikov, for the record, is 6'4".
Okay. So
by the way, at 19, that's 6'4", but like his frame is going to fill out more. Yeah. You're gonna see a like big dude.
Just a big Russian guy. Just picture that. Big nasty Russian guy.
He's gonna be everything we wanted from Ilya Lyubushkin and more.
Exactly.
Hopefully, at least.
Hopefully, scoring more goals.
Yep.
Cool.
Anyway, going forward, we've got 4 games this week. I guess one of them is happening on Tuesday. We're still not 100% sure. I think we're doing a stream on Tuesday.
Yeah, let's give it another shot. I mean,
yeah, we'll give it another shot. We'll give it another. We'll give it another shot. We'll do the Tuesday stream. So we'll see you during that game. But the upcoming games are away against the Flyers tomorrow. Yep. Home against the Flyers on Friday. What would you like to see in the Flyers home and home?
I mean, just taking a look at the Flyers team real quick. Leading point getters, Travis Konechny, Cam Atkinson's number 2, and then Joel Farabee. I don't know who that is.
Farabee?
Yeah. So Konechny was a first-round pick, and same with Farabee. He was a first round pick, 14th overall. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing too is they're running into solid goaltending again. Carter Hart has a 9.21 save percentage with the goals against a 2.2 something. I think just keep doing what you're doing, Sabres. I mean, play like you did against the Avs, play like you did against New Jersey. Don't let that up. I mean, just get your shots on goal or shots on net, and goals are going to get coming, and then, play solid defense. I don't know how much you're going to have to commit to defense against Philadelphia. I mean, I think you can get away a little bit more. I don't know if you agree with that. I don't see Philadelphia as a powerhouse on offense.
They don't necessarily strike me as the biggest scoring group. But
yeah. So I mean, they're leading the They were leading the Metro. I don't know where they're at right now. I mean, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, it looks like just looking at their shots against for a team is pretty low. So I think they're in the low 20s for their against their goaltender. So hey, just put on more shots. You're going to get more goals at this point, and just realize you are playing Carter Hart, who's having a pretty decent season right now so far.
Yeah. For me, I think the thing I'd like to see, just like in the next couple of games, I'd like to see them figure out the power play.
Yeah.
You have all of the pieces to have a fantastic power play. With Tage Thompson on the one side, you got Rasmus Dahlin manning it. You got other weapons in Skinner. I'm not sure. I'm actually a huge fan of Skinner on the power play because I think he loses possession easily. Most of the time when we're turning it over on power play 1, I feel like it's off of Skinner's stick.
Yeah.
But he's playing a little like he plays near and around the net. So when it comes around the net and he needs to make a play and maybe like stick his body in there, like that's not really his game. Maybe you want a heavier guy down low. Maybe you want to shift Alex Tuck down there and put Skinner on the wing, right? Or like into I guess it's on the other side we're normally running Cousins, but Skinner's got a good shot. Maybe move him up towards where Cousins is. Give him the responsibility of only passing and ripping it, right?
Yeah.
And then you can give Cousins more of a crash in front of the net with Alex Tuck behind the net.
Game.
Like, yeah, right. That's more in line with what we think of them as players. So I'd like to see that. Maybe mix up or like shake up the positioning on the power play a little bit. I'd like to see us just get it going more than anything. You know that Thompson is lethal. You know that Dahlin can find seams and like really break down defenses, and we're not producing on the power play. It's just not going in for us, and it's kind of been subsidized by the fact that no one expected our penalty kill to be this good. So our special teams end up around like even, but you really want to see us get that power play going, and it would help really establish like just good special teams, and that special teams can win games. So
exactly. Yeah, and Tage Thompson's starting to get Tage Thompson goals. I mean, that goal against New Jersey is a signature, just using his stick to get the puck in the net. So, yeah.
By the way, Tage Thompson has also been incredibly good defensively. Like, his defensive metrics, I think it's natural stat trick. I was looking at a graph by them, and it was basically just showing that Tage has been, like, one of the better defensive offensemen in the league this year, and his expected goals versus his goals for don't really match. They expect him to have scored at least a few more goals by now based on the shot quality that he's taken. So like we're gonna see it pick up for him, and if he can continue to be good defensively, not only on the penalty kill but at 5-on-5, which he has been thus far this year, he's going to take that jump from just like an elite goal scorer to like a bona fide number 1 elite center. And I personally am here for it and would love to see that.
Yeah. I mean, he's slowly picking his game back up. And I think, like you mentioned, and I kind of mentioned too, being on the penalty kill and just having big guys and with big sticks out there helps out a lot too. So awesome. So that's a home and home. So they'll be playing them twice, which is interesting. So they'll be getting used to each other. And then the game after that, we got our good old friends up north. I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are quietly, they're having a decent season so far.
I like when it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's never quiet.
Yeah.
I can't not hear about them.
I'm in New England, so I don't hear anything except for Boston stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure you hear a lot of Boston stuff.
But yeah, I mean, right now your leading point getter is Willie Nylander. I don't think anyone expected that a couple of years ago from him. So, and I think he's playing into contract year right now just because he saw what happened with Austin Matthews. He's kind of looking for that.
Right. Yeah. He's trying to get paid, and it makes sense.
Yeah. So 12 points, 6 goals, 6 assists. Tavares is up there too with 11 points, 4 goals, 7 assists. And then you got Matthews at 10 points, 7 goals, 3 assists. Quietly he's kind of having a quiet start is Mitch Marner, 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. So, I mean, that's kind of interesting from them.
They're going to be looking to try and get him going at some point.
Exactly.
So, like, he's probably going to be a player to watch by the time we see him.
Mm-hmm. And then the goaltending too. I mean, Samsonov I think he's kind of fallen off as a starter. I think he's at 841 save percentage with a 399 GAA. But you got Wool, who's at a 9.61 save percentage and a 1.33 goals against right now. So did they find their goaltender that they've been searching years for at this point?
I sure hope not. Just out of my own pettiness, I sure hope not.
I'm the same way. I mean, I can't stand Maple Leafs fans, so
they're nice people. Like as fans, they're nice people. I think just them being the big market, it's like it becomes a little insufferable because you hear mostly about Maple Leafs news if you're just like vaguely looking for hockey news. Like, and again, it's got nothing to do with the fact, or like it's like not the team's fault or the fans' fault. It's just the fact that there's so many of them that like that is what hockey news is going to be geared towards. You can't escape it, and it can get a little annoying. But as individuals, Maple Leafs fans, you're fine. I won't say that at the arena or during a game. I'll make sure to heckle you or whatever, but.
I mean, I guess they're tolerable. I guess. I mean, I don't know. You know, when you got Paul Bissonnette leading the charge on TNT coverage, I mean, you just can't stand.
This is why we just don't watch TNT.
Yeah, I mean that's why ESPN Plus is always on TV right at this point. So,
you don't get blacked out on because you're in New England.
So
you're one lucky man.
I know. I thought I would have to get MSG Plus, but then I realized, oh no, I can work out fine with ESPN. So
yeah,
saving some dough right
for those of us who have MSG Plus, we know the struggle. It's terrible.
It really
is. The streaming
is.
service is just awful. The only thing I like about it, they got like a little stats bar on the side, so you can like follow along with like box scores, like who scored what, and
yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool.
It's kind of nice and convenient. But it's like I could just have another tab open with literally the same thing on Google. But they do it for me, so why complain?
Is there anything that you're expecting out of the Sabres for this game at all?
Honestly, this is a little too far ahead in the week. We've got 2 games before this. I'd like to see them compete hard. I'd like to see them bring up Yuri Kulik to score a hat trick against them, just like he did against the Marlies.
Something desperate can have to happen for that to happen.
yeah. In actuality, right, I'd like to see just like a consistent effort against the team in our division that we like think are a legitimate playoff team and who at least the pundits think are a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. You know, it's good to beat Philadelphia, but if we're only beating Philadelphia teams, if we're beating San Jose's and Philadelphia's and Anaheim's, but we can't win against teams like Toronto. Obviously, we beat the Avalanche pretty decidedly last game, but I'd like to see them just like put in a full effort and play it like it's a playoff game, because at some point later this year, it might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I picked the Maple Leafs to win the division this year. I mean,
it's obviously going to be Montreal. Have you seen the run there?
I mean, I don't want to
everything is up in the air right now, but
yeah,
what we say about this is that it's 10 games in.
Exactly. So, I mean, the cream will rise to the top. Water always finds its level. Montreal's going to find its level along with the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Sabres are going to rise. But I mean, like you mentioned, this is going to be a playoff type of atmosphere. I mean, you're going into Toronto. Toronto fans are crazy. It's going to be intense in there. So this is kind of like a testament game of, I don't know if they have to win this game, but you have to be competitive in this. Just don't get the doors blown off. Play solid, keep up with them, and if you get a win, that's awesome. But if it's a very close game, you lose, maybe go into overtime with a point. That I consider that a win for the team too. I mean,
we haven't gone into overtime this year, have we?
One time with Tampa Bay.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I guess I missed that because I was there, but I guess I glossed over that because like we won that one, so we've gotten no loser points right now.
Yeah, got the monkey off the back for that. But I think like I said, I think I would consider that a win too, just to get them into playoffs. Not that I think the Maple Leafs are this great team, but
I mean, if they're playing Ryan Reeves that night, I expect us to beat them.
I mean, yeah, as long as I just hope Ryan Reeves doesn't get his wires crossed and try to go after somebody
It's
because,
fine. We'll have Clifton by that game.
I mean, Clifton's how tall is Ryan Reeves? Because Clifton's only like 5'10" or 11. So I guess you got Jordan Greenway for that.
Yeah, I don't think Ryan Reeves is like the biggest guy.
Yeah.
He's just aggressive.
I know he's wide. He's a big wide guy. He's like a triangle out there or a rectangle.
Ryan Reeves is only 6'1".
Oh.
Yeah, that's manageable.
I mean, okay. All right. You got it, Clifton. I mean,
go for Clifton at him.
Yeah, exactly.
We can both have our bruisers get suspended and then everyone's happy, I guess.
Yeah, it's a plus for both sides at this point. Yeah. So yeah, I think we kind of agree with that game. And then next Tuesday's game is going to be Carolina. I'll be honest with you, I didn't research too much on Carolina, so if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we can pull up some of their goal leaders. One of the things that stands out for me thus far for Carolina is that they've been playing pretty high event hockey. Through 10 games, they have 37 goals for and 37 against. So
wow.
Defensively is where
that's surprising.
Yeah, defensively is where Carolina has really found their groove.
Yeah.
In the NHL as of recently. And so it's a little bit weird to see them let up as many goals as they've been scoring. But on top of that, they're also scoring more than they used to. So I don't know if the systems just changed or really what's going on at all. I know they kind of have been making a point of trying to get more scoring, but I guess it's come at the expense of the goals against.
Yeah.
But they've got Jesperi Kotkaniemi leading them in points right now, which I would not have guessed that.
Yeah.
He's got 10 points in 10 games, 4 of which are goals. They've got Teuvo Teravainen with 8 goals and 1 assist.
Wow.
So that's kind of crazy to me. But yeah, looking down the line, Dmitry Orlov seems to be having a disastrous year, which, I mean, I was kind of the opinion that we should have tried to get Dmitry Orlov. I was willing to even overpay for him to try and get him for 1 year. That was my big, off-season signing.
Yeah.
In my world, it was Dmitry Orlov on probably too much money for 1 year to try and get him for 1 year, because I don't really want him for 2. You're looking at players because could Johnson be the guy in 2 years? Could Novikov be the guy the year after, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to overpay one guy for 2 years, one guy for 1 year. Sorry, yeah. And I thought Orlov was a perfect candidate, and then Carolina went out and did exactly that, and they are feeling the repercussions because he is having a pretty bad year right now. He is at a -9. And again, this is actually, -9. And this is a really good example of it because, the next closest guy, actually, they've got a few bad players, but they've got a cluster of bad guys. And then, the next closest is Jordan Stahl at -3. I think Tony DeAngelo is playing with Orlov right now, and that's why he's a -6. But
yeah.
And at the 35, Jordan Stahl's
yeah, what do you expect
at a -3? Okay, whatever. It happens.
I'm surprised. Is Eric Stahl still out there? Is he still playing for Florida? Eric Stahl?
No idea. I think so. I'd prefer not to think about him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the when he was on the Hurricanes and when he was on the Sabres, and then I'm surprised. I even thought last year seeing Mark Stahl playing, I was like, I thought he was out of the league. I didn't know he was
right.
He played. I had to look, and he's like, oh, he's playing for the Detroit Red Wings. So the Stahl brothers kind of disappeared for a while.
Yeah, and then they all showed up, and that was interesting. It was exactly. Oh, you guys are still around. I knew there was one lingering in Carolina, but one of them popped up on our team, and I was like, what is this about? I thought you had retired.
So I guess, is the Carolina game going to be a boat race then? Or what do you think?
I mean, maybe. That's what it's looking like. I mean, yeah, they're scoring as much as they're letting in, and that's a little bit shocking to me.
What I forgot who their starting goaltender is. What is that save percentage?
Their starting goaltender? I do not have it at the moment. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. I'm just interested to see because even like who was their goaltender last year? He had a pretty solid season, I believe.
We can find this out quickly. All right, so their goaltending. They have Freddie Anderson, and he would have been. It's actually the same duo that they had last year. Freddie Anderson, Antti Ranta, and then Pyotr Kochetkov. I'm sorry, Pyotr. I butchered your name. I really didn't mean to. But they all have roughly like 8.87 save percentage. Like, it's bad. Pyotr is at .836. The goals against average is not really any better at 3.06 for Antti Ranta and Freddie Anderson.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it might just be their goalie. But again, as we've seen in Buffalo, the defense is very important to that number.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it here.
Yeah.
No matter how good a goalie is playing, if you don't have the fence in front of you, it's going to be embarrassing, and you're going to be embarrassed, right? Like, it's tough. Again, Orlov seems to be dropping the ball for them a bit aggressively.
Yeah.
Really throwing the ball straight down.
Because even like Svechnikov, oh my god, he's not even having that good of a season either.
Hold on, wait, try and say that again.
But he's only had two games played.
Yeah, it's only 2 games. He's at half a point a game. You can't blame him on that one.
All right, I guess I'm wrong. I mean, I was just looking at points. I wasn't looking at the games played until afterwards. And then Jack Drury, is that Chris Drury's son?
I do not know.
Interesting. And he's born in New York, so I'll do a quick search real quick. No, so yeah, I think it's just going to have to be. Nope, his father was Ted Drury, so never mind.
No relation.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it'll just need to be a boat race, and then
yeah.
I think like the common theme is just play like you did against the Avalanche, and then you should be golden at this point.
Yep, play like we did it against the Avalanche, minus the power play. Get goals.
Yeah,
do that better.
Of course. So yeah, I mean, we'll be watching that game with everybody here. So make sure you hop on live, and then we'll be talking about it afterwards. So
yeah, the most important thing for that game is that we'll be seeing you here.
Exactly. So make sure you have your notifications on. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment too. Let us know anything that we missed, or some ideas that you have for us, or I don't know, just comment. Join the conversation. I mean, we're just trying to make this show more of a conversation. So we definitely want more comments going on in the chat too as well.
All right, then. We will see you guys next week.
Have a good night, guys.